Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ian and Eric try to figure out how to play this game of Skytear. My name's Ian, and with me tonight is my good friend Eric. How you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing great, Ian. I'm glad to be back.
Oh man, we've got something exciting in store for you. We reached out to the Ricardis and we said, "Hey guys, since everything is spoiled, can Eric and I make a video where we play a game with all the new spoiled cards and deck build and that sort of stuff?" And they gave us the thumbs up, so that's what we are gonna do for you tonight.
I'm excited.
I am as
And I guess
well.
we had a little bit of a gentleman's agreement here, so I'm going to kind of look at the green and blue new cards and build off of that, and then we're going to let you use the yellow and red cards to build off of that, and we're going to go at each other.
That's going to be fun. So the first video that we're going to make for you tonight is this is going to be the deck building process for Eric. So he's going to start tonight with his blue-green deck, and we're going to see where it goes.
Alrighty. Alrighty. So I think last time when we did this, I started with heroes. I started with Kumaya and Shadris, but this time I'm going to start with cards. So, I mean, partly because we have the new cards, but also because I think it's a totally fine way to build a deck. Instead of starting with heroes, is starting with what cards are interesting to you, right?
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
think so.
zoomed in here in all the new blue and green cards. So I've got 10 options here. And I want to see what stuff is interesting to me. And I think Quicksand is an exciting new card. So I definitely want to put some of that in the deck. I don't know if it's a build around. It's just a strong card, I think. Grasp of Granite. If they have slow, they cannot be moved by other effects. Otherwise, apply slow to them. That seems like a good one-cost card. And if I have other slow effects, that could be good. So I'll be looking for something like that. But I don't know that that's something to build around. Now we're talking Zotlin Hunger here. Destroying a pillar and deal 2 damage to all enemies adjacent to that. So that's all minions, that's all pillars, that's all illusions, that's all heroes. That seems like with the right... I mean, it's tough to do because you got to get adjacent to it, but you can get some serious damage going off of that guy if things work out right for you. So that is definitely one of my things that I'm going to be looking at if I go Talot to
Yeah, I
build around.
agree. Now, who is this in the art there? Is that Sakoshi?
That looks like it's got to be Sakoshi, right? Being taken down, maybe?
Yeah, and the terrified look on his face is exactly how I feel about this card. It terrifies me. It's so good.
Alrighty, coup. Push target adjacent hero. X hexes where X is the number of conditions on them. So now this thing seems exciting. I used to be a huge fan of what's that busted card? Um, the green card they banned because it was just so
Oh,
good.
yeah, the one
I'm
that
scrolling over here.
went.
Here it is. Twisted Allegiance.
Yeah, no.
Twisted Allegiance. So this is not as good, but I mean, could be as good. You can make somebody walk away from you if they've already gone and stuff like that, but it takes a lot of setup. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out. If I can get enough conditions on my enemies, maybe I will throw a couple of these guys in, but we will see how that goes. And then topple. So here's another one that goes probably well with Zotlin Hunger. Basically, if I've got a whole lot of pillars around the battlefield, this is like I'd call it a weaker sinkhole, but man, sinkhole is so strong that a weaker sinkhole might be just the thing we need. And I mean, the nice part about this is you don't have to have line of sight or anything. It's just got to be anywhere on the battlefield. So I can see this being a useful card. So, and you know how much I love 3 mana cards. So
I know you do.
these green cards are all interesting to me. I think they're all playable. I think the coup really needs some setup around it, and even the Grasp of Granite probably needs some help for them to be valuable in a deck. So we will see where we go from there. Now, freeze, even though it sounds a lot like Grasp of Granite, where you get to disarm them or otherwise you get to put 0 on them, I think this card might be good enough on its own. Disarm is a great card, and doing it at range is fine. And then if you can ever make it 0, you can make, like in Streeta's Life, miserable. So, or even like a Yami's whole turn miserable, possibly. So, you know, I think there are reasons to work that in. Cooling Breeze, heal the caster and each hero hit X, where X is twice the number of conditions on the caster. So this is the opposite. As opposed to getting things on the other guy, I've got to get them on me. I can see this being in a deck, but I think it's going to be hard to build around with these colors. Like I feel like you really want to get those fast into frenzies, and so you need other colors aside from blue to get there.
Now, do you
So I
see
don't
this
know.
as maybe a like frail build around where this is just another damage card and the frail deal damage with by healing package?
Right. I mean, so I think that's where it can be busted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she won't always do it. She will sometimes heal with it and sometimes do damage with it, right? So
Yep.
that's her choice, and she can even do both with this card, right? If she gets both enemy and a hero inside the range. So I think that's where it can get abusive. But just as a heal card, I think as long as you've got conditions on it, I think it could be good enough. So Obviously, you want to be doing the healing thing, right? So you'd be looking for a
Sure,
control
sure.
deck in that case. But yes, Frail I think is the one that takes us to another level. Heightened Senses, oh my goodness, give me cantrips all day long. Here's a cantrip with some predict almost attached to it. If nothing else, you get to just cantrip it. I'm putting 3 of these in my deck. I don't care if I have no other ways to get conditions. I'm going to play this card,
And
I
I
think.
I love the flavor text on that. What Vorhild seeks, she finds. She
Yeah,
loves
that's nice. Alrighty, Breath of Life. So yes, if I go heavy blue, I think this is an excellent card. I think, I mean, it's not a reaction, but if you stage it right and get a minion near the end of the round after they've killed all the minions, I think in one of the lanes, I think that can be a good surprise. Also, a lot of times losing that shapeshift isn't a cost because you were already going to lose it if you put it on this turn, right? Or it
Yep.
was already going to go away. So that's good. And then Speak with Spirits. Oh yeah, predict 2, shapeshift and disarm. So I mean, I'm drawn to blue cards in general, but man, between Breath of Life, Speak with Spirits, Heightened Senses, I think those are cards I really want to get going. I'll probably throw a freeze in or two, and then the question is, do I just lean into that blue stuff or do I go for the green stuff? I think Zotland Hunger is just too much fun to ignore. So I think I'm going to start there with the Zotland Hungers and the topple. So I'm going to copy that.
Now, before you get too far into this deck building,
Sure.
I just got to say, they have done a phenomenal job on the art on this little batch of cards here. Just looking at the Speak with Spirits art, that
Yes,
is so, so good.
it is
Like, I
gorgeous.
want that on a playmat, and I'm just sad that I can't play with the playmat in Skytear because that is just beautiful art. All right, so I'm
There we
going
go.
to swing over here to the deck building side. And we're gonna see what you got going on here. So you're starting with the Zotland Hungers. I think is a excellent choice. Is it the card is just so it's gonna be broken. I know it. It's gonna be so good. And then topples. Yep. So we're gonna see something where we're gonna put out a bunch of pillars. That's
Yep. So now the question is, do I need more pillar makers to make this good? And so if I'm making pillars, I mean, the other options are Stone Barricade and Dreams of Talot. I like Stone Barricade a lot more than Dreams, where Takali kind of uses Dreams, but in general. Then the question is, do I just go all in and add the Unburial Rites so I have 9 ways to use these pillars? I think that's not a horrible idea.
yeah. I mean, if
So,
Unburial Rights feels like it fits in this deck.
mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're gonna have the pillars on the board, you may not draw into your hungers. You may not draw into some of your things. So I think it's totally fair to have multiple ideas that can go along with that sort of play style. So I think having them in the deck is going to be useful.
Yep. And just in general, I really like Stone Barricade, so I think it is totally legitimate to bring it in. So I'm going to bring in 3 of those guys also. And I haven't even chosen heroes yet, so when I put these cards over here, I mean, I put all 9 of those cards in the same deck for now because I feel like that's just going to be one of my main characters. But, we'll see as we get in this if that gets moved around.
Yeah.
I'm just spitballing at this point. Alrighty, so that kind of encapsulated the green I really want. Oh, I also really want to play with this Quicksand, so I'm just doing that because it's a good card. Again, no
Yeah,
synergies or anything
this
like that.
quicksand I think, is going to be one that if you like sinkholes, you're going to like the quicksands. It's not quite as powerful, but it's going to get the job done in a lot of cases.
So I don't have a huge number of ways to give slow. I've got the Crawling Darkness. I think that I Grasp a Granite if I end up using Ixotosk, but otherwise I probably don't. And then on the other side, I need Ku to have them to have conditions off their turn, and I don't see that happening yet. So I'm going to avoid those 2 cards for the moment. Alrighty, but I think I'm going to play all green-blue heroes, so I won't have any problems casting any blue or green cards. And so if I'm doing that, I'm just going to bring in these Heightened Senses.
Yep, I think that's a good
And
call.
I'll throw it on a different road just because it's blue in case I change my mind about some of this. I guess I really need to choose my heroes before I choose Breath of Life or Speak with Spirits. And the reason I say that is because if I go mostly green heroes, that might not be worth it to be shapeshifting them. So I think I'm going to switch over. Is there anything else that is really synergistic with all these pillars and stuff in the cards area? And I don't think so. So I think I'm going to switch over and zoom up and look at heroes for a little bit and just see about where I want to go. And so I'm on these hero alts right here.
Yep.
And I mean, so I want heroes that are casting green blue. I think Takali is an obvious choice with pillars all over the battlefield. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her. So the 10,000th ritual.
And we
I am
all know you're
going
going to take
to.
Brilvar, so go ahead and copy and
Okay.
paste.
Control C. You twisted my arm. I wasn't even thinking that.
Yeah.
I actually was thinking about Vorhild. I think Vorhild with all these pillars is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm going to do that. So now, as far as green-blue heroes, I can go with Nalaklan, which is just all-around good. Ixatosk if I'm going the control game. So am I going the control? If I go Brilvar, I probably end up going the control game, although 2 tanks sometimes is a concern. I mean, not any threat, because like Vorhild wants to do ping and other damage, so I kind of have to follow it up with something else. So a Consulting Heart. Maybe I do lean the Freyhel and get to scare people with that, or I can go Gullbjorn. No, I really need some more pillar makers, so I've got to stick with at least 2 of these guys. So I'm gonna go against my normal instincts. I'm gonna bring Nalaklan in as my 4th. But I guess I bring in Ixatosk also in case we have control objectives. I think that's fine. And then to round it out, I think I'm picking Frail over Gullbjorn. I don't. Well,
I was gonna say, I
Call
mean,
of the
if
Queen.
I was gonna say with Nantaka, and I mean, there's the possibility of getting a bunch of minions out on the board. It's definitely worth looking into with Nantaka. I think she's just can hit like a truck sometimes, right? And
Yeah. And so I'm going to take Nantaka. I think I like your plan, but then I am going to switch out Brilvar for Frail. So as much as we assume Brilvar, I think Frail for healing possibly, right? Keeping Nalaklan and Nantaka alive maybe or something like that. I think these are the 6 I'm going to start with, and then if
okay.
I find that I don't like it, I will bring Brilvar in and go back to my comfort zone.
I think that looks good, and I'm not gonna lie and say I'm not sad that I don't have to face Brilvar.
Alrighty, so there's my 6 guys that I think I'm going with. I really think I want Vorhild as one of my mains. On first blush, I'm going to put Nantaka out, but maybe it'll be Ixatosk, right? Alrighty. So, Ixatosk. So if I have Ixatosk, I am going to bring in a couple Grasp for Granite. So that's my first thing that I actually know that I'm sticking on a certain guy. So I'm going to actually bring him to the bottom here and build from the right-hand side. I'm just going to put 2 of them there because I think 2 is a fine number to help him when he gets to do his thing. I don't think coup is happening. Alrighty, so Vorhild really does like Touch of Leothin, but his Speak with Spirits, I mean, it does cost 2, but man, that's a lot more value, I think. And I like 2s a lot. So I think I'm actually going to have her bring all 3 of these Speak with Spirits because I'm loving that card.
Yeah, I think for the extra mana and the ability to go ahead and either predict to or apply the disarm if you're already going to shapeshift, I think that's it's pretty great. And again, anytime that you can at instant speed use her, get her ability online, always good.
Yep. And what's interesting is the one thing I just talked about how I like Breath with Life, but it does not combo well with Vorhild because she loses her shapeshift at the beginning of the turn.
Right.
And so she is the one Leothin that really is not going to take advantage of Breath of Life very often. I mean, you can do it on other people's turns and stuff like that, but that's awkward because then you're removing your untarget ability, right? So I think I'm going to pass on that. I'll take one and put it in the Frail deck just to have it as an option because I think it's a fun card, but that's not going to be a main thing we're building around here. Alrighty, so what are we talking about here? We're trying to get 9 cards in each of these decks. Right now, if we filled it in, we still need a bunch of cards. We need 20 up there and another 20 and 7, 20 and 6. So 26 cards. So we still have plenty of room to work with. So what are we doing with this deck? I think I just can't go much further without just throwing 3 sinkholes in the deck.
Yeah, I think our viewers might faint if you didn't, Eric.
And then the question is, am I going to rampant hate with this deck? And the answer is maybe.
Yeah, I think
It is.
I mean, you run a Nalaklan. I think
Yep.
you almost got to put in a copy or 2.
Yeah.
And
And if we're building to that way of maybe getting a double kill or something, it's just such a good double kill card.
yeah.
So 3 of those go in. I think presence is just another automatic.
Yep.
Okay. And now we get into the area of, do we want to run -1s in this deck? And I think we maybe don't. I think we want to be aggressive enough that we don't have to. As much as I love myself a Bewitch. So to keep my guys alive, I feel like Crawling Darkness or a Snowblind is going to be in my future. Both +1s. This one allows them to combo with the Grasp of Granite. So along the lines of this cost, I'm going to take a couple. I like having a variety of different answers to my various problems, right? So like just one of them targets, one of them doesn't target, one can get 3 away, one can also do slow, right? So if you draw 2 Snowblinds, you have to have both of them work, whereas if you draw one of each, you're in a better situation. So I'm going to put 2 of those on Ixotosk, and again on Ixotosk because when he's in, I'm going to have this cool ability to maybe double up and get the whole no movement at all happening.
So Eric, I think that's a good question for the viewers is when you're building a deck, how important is it, I guess, how much thought do you put into what problems is my deck going to have and what can I do to solve it? Or is it just, are you ever building a deck where it's just so singular focused that all you're doing is putting in the best 40 cards for your one purpose?
Right, and so that 40 card. So when I started this, I thought I was going to do the 40 card thing, where I basically picked 4 heroes. I said, this is what it's doing. This is its plan A, plan B, this is the plan A, basically. This is what I'm going to do. And then I'd bring in 2 other heroes and look for ways to shore up either bad victory conditions or bad matchups or something like that. It's not exactly how we ended up going with this deck, so I'm going to have to. But what you're talking about as far as shoring up really normally happens after I played a couple games with the deck.
Sure.
Because it's one thing, and you get better at it as you do it, but knowing exactly what your weaknesses are is kind of hard until you play a couple times. You're like, oh yeah, this deck just can't deal with Leothan or can't deal with Release of Spirits or something like that, right? And what am I going to do if they're rampant hatreding me or something, right? And so then you can start either making heroes or parts of heroes that can counter that type of thing. So we might talk about it a little bit here. I mean, but yeah, my Snowblind and my Crawling Darkness are just generic, trying to stop or slow down the aggressive decks, but maybe Nourish and Shelter are better, right? Especially with the Frail in the deck, right? Or even the Cooling Breeze might be a better choice, right? So it is tough to know what the right answers are, but that's one of those things that it takes time getting used to what your deck is trying to do to start realizing what the holes in it are.
No,
But speaking of that, oh, good.
I was going to say, I think that's really good advice that, don't get so dead set on these are the cards that I'm going to play and then run your head into a wall for 4 or 5 games and try not to make choices, right?
Yeah. And I've definitely done that, right? Or I'm like, this should just work. Why is this not working? And have blinders on because you want it to work as opposed to what it's actually doing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, Hunting for Power is not that bad. I can handle Hunting for Power with this deck. And then you keep losing to it. Like, well, they got lucky, or hey, this happened this way. And then you're like, oh, wait, I've lost 6 times for Hunting for Power in the last month. That's probably a problem with my deck, not just with luck, right? So,
yeah.
Alrighty. So I just added the 3 Nourishes because with Frail, that just seems automatic. I am kind of looking at my curve here. I've got the 9 3-drops, so I probably want a couple more, even though I'm being an aggressive deck.
So since we're playing Frail, did you want to add the new heal card, that
is
AOE,
a good idea.
AOE heal?
So she'll have 1 on her, and do I have any other way to give her a Frenzy or a Fast? Not unless I run like Unfamiliar Terrain, which is a +2. I guess that could be a sneaky little combo at some point. But it is a caster only, so I can't do the combo until turn 3, or unless I want to use the Flux on turn 2. And that seems like maybe not. Like at that point, I probably just want to be dropping 3 drops that are doing stuff as opposed to cute little combos, right? But having one of the Cooling Breezes, because if I get disarmed, which could happen, or slowed, all of a sudden she can take advantage of that. So
Sure.
Yeah, let's put a couple Cooling Bruises in her deck and see how this goes. So Control V, Control V. I'm up to 6 cards in her deck, so these are going to have to move. Probably the Presences are actually moving. The Snowblinds might come in. She might be my anti-aggro deck. I think I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to put in the Snowblinds, and then there's something else out here that really screams defense to me. I mean, the Crawling Darknesses, but yeah. We'll put a Quicksand on her for now. Anyway, so she might not get played, but if she does get played, it's because you've decided to make some type of aggressive Yami or Mage deck or something like
I would never.
that. Alrighty. So as far as cards go, we got 9 there, we got 9 there. If I fill in there, we've got 2 extras, so I'm down to needing 13-ish more cards. Anything else in the new cards that speaks to me? No, I don't think Ku's gonna make it, so we're gonna avoid that.
So, if
Yeah.
you're in a just because we're trying to talk about the new cards and you're specifically looking at Coup and saying you don't think it's going to make the cut, and I think that's a fair assessment. What kind of a deck wants Coup in? What's a deck trying to do that wants to play 2 or 3 copies of Coup?
So, so I think it's going to be the controlling side of a list, but it's going to be the side that can be putting on the disarms, the slows, and the marks consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird because it would be probably a red-green deck, right? Well, I mean, you don't have to, but having a couple people marking is really good, right? I
Yeah,
mean, the one that jumps to mind for almost this entire set is Mayuki, because when she marks somebody, she gets a mark and a slow on them. So all of a sudden, one little action is giving you 2 things. Um, Crawling Darkness does go well with Coup, right? Because you get both the disarm and the slow. So that would be a card to do that. But all the red heroes basically giving you a chance to mark as an action. You don't even have to use a card. Means now anybody that is sitting 3 away from a control point, you basically can use Coup to push them, right?
yeah,
So I think it's going to lean more towards those red guys because as cute as 2-card combos are, the problem is that they're combos and you'd have to have both sides of it. You have to have the mana for it. You have to be a double target. It's just a little bit more clunky unless the payoff is great, right? And I don't know. Twisted Allegiance was so broken that it might be worth just building around Coup, right? And I'm sure somebody will try it, and I'll at some point be sad that my Brilvar's running 3 squares away from everybody and not in control and not taunting anybody. But that is for somebody else to break and not for me today.
fair enough.
Alrighty. So if I want to stay on the aggressive side, this is where I really want the deck builder back so that I can look at like what the +2s are sitting in here. Adding a charm is not the worst idea. Maybe I'll throw a charm into Frail's deck. That's not it. That's through the eyes.
Charm is down
Charm. Yeah. And green has some good 2-drops. So Shield Slam and Impervious. Kind of like putting shield slams on Ixotosk if he comes in. So let's go ahead and do 3 of those. Impervious is really good for Nantaka and Nalaklan, and it combos with Shield Slam. So I think I'm going to go grab 3 Imperviouses also. We'll have them in the mix somewhere. But I don't think I want them in Ixotosk because I think I actually want them in play, like if I bring Nantaka. So I'm going to put, maybe I'll split them up. 2 on Nalaklan and 1 on Nantaka. So Takali's going to be able to heal herself some. Obviously, if Frail's in, we're going to get more healing on Takali, so we can play a control-y type game. What is my main lineup here? I felt like Frail was going to be sitting on the bench. I feel like it's Vorhild and 3 of the Taulot guys. And so Takali, I think, is for sure. Nalaklan. I think I'll just make Nantaka a main, and then Ixotosk will shift in when I just want to be annoying or I'm too worried about them being aggro. Like this is my anti-aggro package down here, maybe. So my I don't care about defense and I'm all offense. Takali's kind of weird, but Nalaklan, Vorhild, and Nantaka all can fill that role. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So what cards am I playing? I'm playing all these new cards, so they just go on Takali. Boom, done. Vorhild. Am I playing Vorhild no matter what? The answer is no, so I don't want to put the presences there. Heightened Senses is not good on Vorhild for the same reason. Oh, it's a reaction. Yeah, it's good on Vorhild. So I'll throw those 3 onto her. Then we've got Nalakland here, needing 1 more card if he sports all of that. Nantaka needs 2 more cards, and Sauce needs 3 more cards. So I need 6 more cards. I'm going to get Chasm, just as another good 3-drop. And I will sprinkle that 1 in each of these hands, which means I need 3 more cards. So what other +2s do we have? I guess Dreams of Talot, although I don't know that I need those. Reclaim Life is cute. Oh, I want a 1 of Granite Skin. I'm going to put that in Ixotosk's deck because that's just fun when it goes off. So here near the end, I'm picking things I think are cute, and I like not doing all 3 ofs, like just because it keeps people guessing. Because once they see half your deck, if you've done all 3 ofs, they can kind of guess what the rest of your deck is. Whereas if you throw some 1 ofs in there, they're like worried about cards that have just been thrown once and they're expecting more of them maybe. Or on the other side, they just don't see it for the first half of the game. They're like, oh, he doesn't have any Granite Skins, and all of a sudden it pops and hits them. So I like mixing that up, especially with the marginal cards that I see are somewhat equivalent in value or differently useful depending on the situation.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of the random 1 or 2 of a card to really throw somebody off.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I do like having exactly one sudden distraction in my deck because it's one of those gotcha cards. And so that means I move this up to here because I want an Ixotosk. And there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I feel like I have 9 cards on everybody. Is there anything here? I mean, I feel like Frail's looking pretty good as a sub-in, and Ixotosk is coming in with interesting cards. Maybe I want my sudden distraction in the main deck. So maybe I will switch this back. And I want it in for Nalakland, who's going to be my main. So the one thing I just realized is I think if I take 1 of these guys out, Nantaka or Nalakland, which one would I be taking out?
So it's probably the way you have the deck set up now. It looks like almost all of your 3s are on Nantaka. So
Yeah.
if you were to take Nantaka out, you definitely lose out on not just some powerful cards, but a lot of your 3 mana.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to take and consolidate 3 Sinkholes and 3 Presences onto one of these guys that I'm keeping in, I think is my plan, and say that guy's going to be my main. And so I'm trying to determine which one of these do I feel like being my main today. So extra hit points from Nantaka, a higher ability. Consulting the Heart lets me do some gross things. But you know what? I want to try Nantaka. So I think I'm going to bring those Presences down and make Nantaka my main. Which means, am I going to get rid of Rampant Hatreds over here? That seems wrong. I guess I can get rid of the Chasms. Bring down the Presences. And the bad part of this is I don't get any of the quicksands. So can I switch a quicksand into somebody else's deck? Maybe I can take out a topple for a quicksand just so I have one if I don't get to bring Nantaka in with me. And this is where I probably would spend, a couple hours just looking at this and moving stuff around, or say, hey, somebody give me a quick game and let me feel what feels right or what's missing before I went on. But I think for today, this deck makes me happy. So unless you see something glaringly wrong, and this is the other thing with the deck builder, we could use the stats to see what our curve was as far as the 3 mana cards, which I think is a good thing, and also the modifiers. Like I'm just assuming I put enough 2s in to make Nantaka hit 2s a lot of the times, but once you do that and sort by the different 4s that you're going to put together. So to say that again, I think these 4 at the top, Takali, Nantaka, Vorhild, and Nalakland are going to be my main. If they're aggressive, I'm bringing. If there isn't any zero armor people, I probably pull out Vorhild, sadly, and it'll either go to Ixotosk and make myself all green, or if they're aggressive also, I'd probably switch it into Frail. If Vorhild's a good target, I would bring in Frail instead of Nalochlin, most likely. And is there any world where I would sit Takali? I don't think so. I think she is solidly main, and I think Nantaka is solidly main. So basically, these two coming in would need to be coming in for a combination of um, uh, Nalochlin and Vorhild if they were going to make their appearance.
I think it looks good. I think there is one ginormous hole in this deck, and that is you have not chosen an outsider yet. So, what outsider do we want to bring with this deck?
Well, if I'm trying to get, I have enough things that deal something with negative conditions on my opponents that I think I would take the Terror, not just because I love the Terror, which I do, but I think being able to do that where I get to give Disarm and Slow, and hey, if I can Frenzy on Frail so that her Healing Breath can do an extra one the next turn, that also seems like a benefit. So I think I will go with the Terror of the Endless Night.
I think that's a good choice. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for the cards that you've chosen. So, all right. Well, Eric, I think this looks pretty good.
Alrighty. Well, I will group it up, and then I guess we'll take a little break, and then we'll turn it over to you, and we'll have another video with that, right?
Yeah. So, everybody, thanks for watching. Be on the lookout for video number 2 here, where you are going to see my deck building process with some of the new red and yellow cards. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Night.